In this episode, Clark can't punch his way out of the problem, Lex is making plans to steal Luthor Corp, and Chloe goes nuts on Lana. This is the Smallville Chronicles. Hello, my name is Lou Gonzalez, and with me as always is Alan Muir.
I'm Alan Muir.
Alright, this episode
I was trying to do my best, Brian Fellows.
Okay. Just caught me completely off guard.
That's exactly what I wanted.
Alright.
Thank you.
So this episode is Rogue. This is a very interesting episode because, again, there's a lot of, like the last episode, there's a lot of world building in here. Not as much overall, but there's some backstory given to Lex, and then there's a lot of foreshadowing as well. This episode starts where Lex invited Clark to visit a museum that his family owns, and sets him up on a kind of blind thing with Lana, and Clark's kind of confused at first until Lana reveals that Whitney tagged along.
This was actually what's the term they use when the show is off for a while, then comes back for
like mid-season premiere.
Sort of. This is sort of the mid-season premiere. Yeah,
like it's a kind of the return after like a gap.
Yeah, the last episode, Jitters was 2001. This episode was broadcast in 2002.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the last episode was December 11th. This was January 15th. So yeah, this was kind of like they came back after the winter break with this episode. All right, so after seeing Whitney, Clark and Lex also have a conversation while they're standing in front of the armor of Alexander the Great, which is ridiculous looking with a snake S on it with like a diamond-encrusted, I guess, diamond panel around it. Obviously a nod to the Superman thing, which Clark makes a joke about. He says, I can't exactly see myself going into battle with that on my chest.
Yeah, and I think Lana surprises him and Lex.
Yeah, they do. Clark says, I didn't know you were such a history buff. Lex says, I'm not. I'm just interested in people who ruled the world before they were 30. And then that's where Lana interjects, saying like, oh, you still have some time, Lex.
Yeah.
And then we get the thing where Whitney's there, so Clark is moping about because he's sad. And then while him and Lex are continuing to talk, we are interrupted by our first B-plot, which is Victoria. She is Lex's old fling and the daughter of a rival company. It's Victoria Hardwick. This is our first time seeing her. She'll show up, I believe, in like 3 other episodes.
Yeah, I like the ending of this plot.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it, and then when she showed up, I was like, oh, I remember this plot and how it ends.
Yeah, and it just it's so savage.
Yes, I didn't even realize, though, that the actress playing this is Kelly Brock, who is kind of like she was in like the mid-2000s, like the kind of FHN pinup girl kind of things.
Oh, wow. In
like this time period. Yeah, she's a big kind of like British model, like a late night kind of thing. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
This will sound really terrible, but she's like professional hot girl. Like she does acting and stuff, but even in the shows that she's acting in, she's usually used as like a comic relief type thing. Like she was in Piranha 3D. I don't know. She's been in a bunch of like really goofy TV shows, but I think she's been in a bunch of video games. She was in like a Need for Speed. I don't know how to describe her other than that. It sounds like really terrible, but that's kind of what you could be in like that kind of early 2000s to like the mid 2000s kind of range. You know, she would present awards. Yeah, she's very famous for being who she is.
She's one of them pretty good.
Yeah, she was like where was it? She was voted like the sexiest woman in the world in 2005, and in 2015 she was in the top 100 sexiest countdown since 1998.
That is very specific.
Yes, I know. This is back. I don't even think that magazine exists anymore, but like that's who she was. So this is at the beginning because this is before all that because this is 2001 still. So they got her early on. But like if you've watched she's like, it's weird because like, I guess like the British TV stuff is a little bit different, but I think she was kind of one of those Big Brother type people for that show that they do a lot over there. And she always did like a lot of those like weird celebrity shows, like game shows and stuff like that. I don't know. We're spending a lot of time on this actress when she has not done a ton. All right, so let's get back to the episode. Basically, Victoria shows up and woos Lex and gets him away, and we find out that they were exes. We also find out in this side plot that she is the daughter of another rich businessman who is just as shitty as Lionel is to Lex, and she tries to convince Lex to use his ins at the company to get the company away from his father and then sell it to her father. And he's like, oh, this doesn't sound like something your dad would do. It sounds like something you would do. Why don't we try to figure out how to get both companies from both of them? And this is cut throughout the episode, but that's basically the whole that's the whole thing of this little subplot. The next thing we see, though, after Lex ditches Clark, he goes outside to get some air, and he sees a bus driver having a heart attack and about to run the bus into a homeless man. Instead of, I don't know, speeding the homeless man and his dog away, he shoulder checks the bus.
And just wrecks it.
Which probably should have killed the driver.
Oh no, he's fine.
Even though he has a heart attack.
Yeah, he has a heart attack, and immediately gets up like nothing happened.
Yeah. If this was a Marvel movie, that would have been Stan Lee's character.
Oh god, that's terrible.
But like, that's what they would do with him if it was MCU. But yeah, so he does that and he leaves. During this, we see Phelan talking to some guy about getting him into IA to get the things.
Yeah,
and then
some folders from Eternal Affairs.
Yeah, he's like, I need this guy to go get the thing for my thing. And he examines the bus after Clark speeds away. The next morning, we see Clark talking to his parents. He's like, oh, this is what happened and why I was out late. And they're like, oh, nobody saw you, right? And it gave me flashbacks to Man of Steel with the bus and people seeing him.
Yeah. Sometimes horses have to drown.
But I do think we get a good scene here of both. They realize that they also have to be like, well, we're proud of you. Like, we just worry about you. And then,
man, I can't wait till we get to that tornado episode.
It's going to be hilarious.
There's going to be so many bad John Kent jokes.
Exactly. All right. So the next part of this that's important is that I believe it is here that we get our other B plot, which is that Principal Kwan comes in and fires Chloe. Lana goes to make things better. And then a couple of scenes later, Lana comes back saying things are better, but he made me the editor. Chloe loses her shit on Lana, and Clark leaves. And then when this kind of subplot gets wrapped up by Lana basically runs a story on how Kwan is like blocking their First Amendment rights. Kwan reinstates Chloe as long as that she prints stuff that she can prove it's fine. And then Lana and Chloe have this kind of quick girl talk of how both of them are just friends with Clark in like the largest quotes on earth.
Yeah, because Chloe nearly cries.
Yeah, because she thinks Lana is trying to cut her out because it's like the one other thing that the only thing that Clark kind of and her have to themselves is the torch. And it's pretty, like, it's, Chloe almost comes out and says it, that she has a thing for Clark, which everybody knows. And Lana addresses that, but then Chloe's like, well, we're just friends. And then Chloe's like, well, Clark has a thing for you, and you guys have, like, a thing. And Lana's response is, no, we're just friends. And they kind of just stare at each other and leave it at that, and everything is awkward.
Yeah, that is a very awkward situation.
Yeah. So, let's get back to the main plot. Phelan goes and sees Lex at the coffee shop.
Well, no. Before that, he has someone from...
Oh, yeah, he has a security guard get him pictures of the security.
Because he's blackmailing that guy.
That he had a DUI.
Yeah, and just like he blackmailed the guy who was supposed to get the files for him. This dude is just a one-note blackmail character. You can literally call him blackmail.
Yes. So he goes from that.
Blackmail the character.
Yeah. He shows the pictures to Lex, and Lex blows him off, saying, like, oh, no, I don't know this guy. And he's like, oh, well, you guys are buddy-buddy. And then the next thing you know, Clark is walking through his barn. He sees a badge on the ground, and a generator is dropped on him, and he throws it 50 feet away or whatever. He chucks it across the room, and then Phelan reveals himself and kind of says, like, you're going to do what I want. You're going to meet me at the coffee place tomorrow. Clark tells his parents that he was seen, and they're upset. And Jonathan is like, you're not seeing this guy, I'll go see him. Jonathan goes and sees him, and they get into a thing, and Jonathan, like, kind of throws him on the table and threatens him. There's a lot of this that goes, like, super fast, but basically, later on, Phelan, like, stops Clark as he's coming home from school, tells him to get in the car, and then drives him to Metropolis to the head of Internal Investigations, or Internal Affairs house, and tells him to break into it, where Clark drops a safe, 20 stories? No, it's not that high. It's like 5 stories onto his car, and then hands him the file after he called the cops, and the cops kind of catch him right there.
Also, the funny thing, the apartment of the Internal Affairs lead in the season 3 premiere, that's where Clark is actually living. He's living in that apartment 517.
It's funny, and I don't know if they ever address it, but it is kind of like a funny continuity thing where I guess they just got lazy and didn't change anything and figured no one would catch it. All right, so after this, we see the next day, Clark is kind of like, oh, I don't think we're going to have to hear from him again. Knock, knock on the door. It is the Smallville sheriffs. They're there they have a search warrant. They check the barn, but oops, there's a dead body who's been shot in the heart.
Yeah, and Deputy Ethan and Deputy Gibbon take John to jail.
They find a gun in his truck, and they take him to jail. Martha leaves. Clark
no. I was actually wrong about something. Last episode, I mentioned, Bob Ross, Pete's dad.
That's this episode?
That's this episode. I got it mixed up because it was the most recent one I watched.
Okay. Yeah, so Clark has this thing where he's gonna, like, take out all the cops, and Jonathan has to calm him down. Martha follows in their truck, and they leave Clark, who punches a support beam in their house. And then, again, out of the corner, Phelan comes out and basically tells him, you're going to do what I say, or your dad's going to spend time in jail. Clark gets really pissed and, like, throws him up against another beam in the house and is, like, threatening to kill him. And he's like, this is not something, like, even if you did this, like, it wouldn't change anything. Only I can change anything here. And you're going to do what I say. So we go on from there, and Phelan brings Clark to the museum. He tells him he wants him to steal the armor. Lex is following them in the most conspicuous way ever, which I always see in every single TV show. Like, people don't know how to follow anybody. He's following with his headlights leaving from the barn. So this detective doesn't realize he's being tailed. We see Phelan and Clark go to the museum. Clark rips open a thing, and Phelan destroys the security cameras, I guess, in that area, or so he says, except for later on. They break in after Phelan calls in a fake bomb threat. Lex is outside with security guards, and there's a package in a newspaper thing. Clark breaks open the display, and Phelan takes it out of the case and puts it into a bag. Lex outside opens the box, and it's just an alarm clock. And at the same time, Clark takes the bag and throws it out the window, and it lands at their feet. Clark says, like, you can't get out of this one because your fingerprints are all over it. Phelan pulls out his gun and says, you're maybe strong, but you can't stop you can't. He says something like,
his words are, you may be strong, but you're not bulletproof.
Yes. Which we'll see in 2 episodes that he is. But he shoots at Clark. We get, like, an awesome, we got in
Matrix S.
Bullet time. He actually, like, bends around the bullet in one shot in 2 different ways, and it makes no sense.
And you can see the
trail.
The trail, how he screws up the trail with his head.
I thought that was a good little thing that they did, because it, like, went around his head, like, the airflow. But it looks great.
Yeah.
So we see that, and then Clark speeds out of there as the security guards show up, and they exchange fire, and now Phelan gets shot in the chest, and Lex goes to him and says, what did you have on Clark? And he says, like, screw you, Lex, and dies.
His exact words were, go to hell, Luthor, or go to hell, Lex.
I think it was Luthor.
Yeah.
But yeah, our next scene is Jonathan is returned home, all the charges are dropped, and he got an apology. How all this got, cleaned up, we will never know, but it happened, and we're going to move on, is basically what the show tells us.
I just love that there's disposable dead bodies out there in this world that you can just find and...
Oh, well, it was the guy from the beginning of the episode.
Really?
Yeah. The guy that Phelan's talking to in the beginning, that's who that body is.
Huh.
Remember, he tells the guy you have 24 hours to get me into the thing?
Yes, that does make sense.
All right. Sorry, I have to wrap up soon because my dog is barking at me that he wants to go to the bathroom. So the last scene we get is Lex looking at it. The last scene we, everybody's judgmental. The last scene we get, seriously? The last scene we get is Lex looking at the security tape and pausing it and seeing a human blur, although Phelan was supposed to have cut all the security tapes. But I guess this may be from like another area of the museum, and that's the episode.
No, Phelan only cut the alarm.
Oh, I thought he cut the tapes too. But
plot hole.
Yeah, it is a plot hole. But we do get a bunch of awesome, stuff in this episode. We get more foreshadowing of Lex wanting to know what's going on with Clark, because they do have the scene where Clark and Lex are getting into it, and Lex keeps offering help, and Clark's kind of like telling him, "No, you can't help me." And then Lex even goes like, "Well, what does he have on you?" So there's these scenes where it shows like, does Lex really care about Clark, or is he more interested to find out what is special, what's going on with Clark? And we get to kind of get these hints of like that we don't really know what Lex's true agenda is. Is he who Jonathan says he is, or is he who Clark thinks he is? But we also get to see Clark being intimidating because he towers over Lex and he towers over Phelan.
Yeah, and this is another foreshadowing of the whole Clark/Blur we get from season 7 to season 10.
Yep. There were some great scenes in this episode. My favorite scene was actually the Clark and Phelan scene, or the jail scene between Clark and Jonathan. Both were absolutely great for different reasons. I love the kind of over-the-top villainy that Phelan was, especially because he's our first villain that doesn't have any powers. But
don't worry, folks, he will be coming back.
Yes, he's in a flashback episode, right?
Yeah.
But that scene and the scene with Jonathan in the jail gave me like season 1 of Flash vibes so hard.
Yeah.
But it was really good.
Totally not the prison scene between Barry and Henry in Justice League, because that was just terrible.
I do have to say, like, the one scene in this episode that I thought was completely unnecessary was like the Lana Clark scene.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it was just there to give like more. It's like, oh yeah, here's our teenage romance thing of the week, and moving on to the actual episode. But I do think Jonathan was far and away the best in this episode. I did love Phelan, the actor. Like, I loved how he played that character, but Jonathan definitely, every scene he was in, he just dominated.
Yeah, because it's his worst fear happening.
Exactly. And I think he did a great job of addressing it, and then his play against Martha, where she's like, you can't discourage him from doing good things. Because even Clark says, like, oh, maybe, like, at the end, like, maybe I shouldn't use my powers anymore. And Martha's like, no, they're part of you. They're who you are. You can't not use them.
Yeah. But then again, Clark has sometimes he gets it, sometimes he doesn't, like season 10 and the farm. The scene, something that just happens in a random episode in season 10 that returns in the series finale.
Alright, yeah, I do not really remember this at all. I haven't seen season 10 in forever.
It was Martha gave Clark the deed to the farm.
Oh, okay.
And Clark thought she wanted him to sell it, so he decided to sell it. And she's like, "Why'd you sell it? It was a wedding gift."
I really don't remember any of this at all. Sorry.
You don't remember that? And
I blacked out a lot of season 10.
Yeah, they also had Jedi Ghost Jonathan Kent.
Oh god, that's a thing.
Yeah.
All right. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about for this episode?
No.
You can check out the trailer for next week's episode.
Shimmer.
Yep, Shimmer. And this will be our second time with Lex's future past girlfriend.
Which sounds like a hell of a time travel trip.
On an all-new episode, a presence that cannot be answered.
And Lex said he felt something brush past him.
Is a vengeance that cannot be seen.
Whoever attacked you was invisible?
Who's there?
Lex?
An all-new Smallville.
All right, well, I'm excited to see that episode. I do love the story that we get to, like we both talked about with Victoria.
Yeah, how that whole thing plays out. Her and Sir Harry.
All right, so we'll definitely check that on the next episode. So, is there anything you want to plug?
Just follow me on Twitter at the Alan Muir or Instagram at Comics Boy.
Yep, and I'm everywhere at Lou A. Gonzalez. And check out the other episodes, and don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, like, share, all those good things. All right, we'll catch you next time. I'm Lou Gonzalez.
I am Alan Muir, and this podcast stands for truth, justice, and the American way.